The town of Leicester had always carried whispers of an ancient horror. They spoke of Black Annis, a grotesque hag with blue skin, iron claws, and a hunger for flesh. Parents told their children to behave, lest Black Annis snatch them from their beds at night. But like all urban legends, the story had faded into mere cautionary tales, until one autumn evening, when the past clawed its way back into the present. Amelia Carter was a folklore professor at Leicester University, specializing in myths and urban legends. Her latest research focused on Black Annis, tracing the origins of the story back to its medieval roots. Some believed she was based on a real person, a recluse who lived in the caves outside the city, while others thought she was a pagan deity demonized by Christianity. Whatever the truth, Amelia was determined to uncover it. One evening, Amelia's student, Daniel, rushed into her office, his face pale and sweat glistening on his forehead. "Professor, you need to see this." He held up his phone, playing a shaky video recorded in the woods near Dane Hills. A group of teenagers had been exploring the area, laughing and joking, until something in the darkness silenced them. A guttural growl, deep and unnatural, sent them running. The screen flickered as the phone was jostled, and for a split second, a figure appeared between the trees. A hunched woman with tattered robes, eyes glowing with malice, and fingers ending in sharp, curved claws. Then the screen went black. Amelia frowned. "Where did you get this?" "It was posted on a local forum last night. People are saying it's her." Black Annis. Amelia sighed. "You know as well as I do that urban legends have a way of coming back. This is probably just a prank." Daniel shook his head. "Maybe, but a kid from my old neighborhood disappeared 2 nights ago. His house backs onto the woods." That made Amelia pause. While she was skeptical of supernatural tales, she couldn't deny the historical pattern. Stories of Black Annis weren't just bedtime warnings. They were often linked to real disappearances. She decided to investigate. The next morning, Amelia and Daniel visited the local archives. Combing through centuries-old newspapers and records, they found a disturbing pattern: missing children, claw marks on doors and windows, and sightings of a blue-skinned creature near Dane Hills. The reports weren't confined to the distant past. Similar cases had been reported as recently as the 1990s. One particularly chilling entry from 1893 described a young girl found in the woods, alive but scarred. She babbled about a woman with sharp nails and a voice like broken glass. That night, Amelia and Daniel ventured into Dane Hills, equipped with flashlights and recording devices. The forest was eerily silent, as if the wildlife itself feared to stir. The trees loomed high, their skeletal branches clawing at the sky. Every crack of a twig made Amelia's pulse quicken. Daniel whispered, "I don't like this." "Neither do I," Amelia admitted. "But if we're going to prove or debunk this, we need evidence." A gust of wind swept through the trees, bringing with it the scent of damp earth and something foul, like rotting meat. Amelia covered her nose, but before she could comment, a low growl rumbled through the air. It was followed by a rustling in the underbrush. Daniel swung his flashlight toward the sound. What was that? The beam of light illuminated something crouched among the roots of a twisted oak. It was a woman, or something that had once been a woman. Her skin was a sickly shade of blue, stretched tight over sharp cheekbones. Her eyes burned with unnatural intensity, and her lips curled back in a grin that revealed jagged teeth. Iron claws gleamed in the moonlight. Black Annis had returned. Daniel screamed and stumbled backward, but Amelia stood frozen, transfixed by the creature before her. The legend was real. Every old tale, every whispered warning. It was all true. Black Annis lunged forward, her claws raking through the air just inches from Amelia's face. Daniel grabbed Amelia's arm, pulling her away. "Run!" They bolted through the trees, their breath ragged and desperate. The creature's shrieks followed them, chilling their blood. Amelia dared to glance back and saw those glowing eyes still locked onto them, filled with hunger. They burst out of the woods and onto the main road, where the glow of streetlights seemed to banish the nightmare behind them. But Amelia knew better. Black Annis wasn't gone. She had merely returned to her lair, waiting for the next foolish soul to stray too close. Over the next few days, Amelia scoured every piece of information she could find. Legends claimed Black Annis lived in a cave carved into the limestone near the edge of the woods. It was said she had dug it herself with those terrible claws, using the bones of her victims to line the entrance. The cave had supposedly been sealed up centuries ago, but if Black Annis was truly back, then perhaps the stories were wrong. Determined to put an end to the legend once and for all, Amelia and Daniel returned to the forest, this time armed with supplies. They carried iron tools, believing the old tales that said Annis's own iron claws made her vulnerable to the metal. They also brought salt, another folklore remedy against malevolent spirits. They found the cave hidden beneath thick undergrowth. The entrance was partially collapsed, but a narrow gap remained. The air that seeped from within was cold and damp, carrying a stench of decay. "We go in, document what we can, and get out," Amelia said. Daniel nodded, his grip tightening on the iron crowbar he carried. "Let's end this." Inside, the cave walls were rough and uneven, etched with marks that could have been claw scratches. Bones littered the ground, some animal, some disturbingly human. At the far end, a shadow moved. Black Annis emerged from the darkness, her lips curling into a snarl. "Fools!" she rasped. "You think you can stop me?" Amelia took a deep breath and hurled a handful of salt at the creature. Black Annis shrieked as the grains sizzled against her skin, her form flickering like a mirage. Daniel swung his crowbar, striking her shoulder with a sickening crunch. The hag howled and lashed out, sending him sprawling. Amelia seized a rusted iron spike from the floor and drove it into Black Annis's chest. The creature let out an unearthly wail, her body convulsing as blue flames engulfed her. Her flesh withered, turning to ash, and with one final screech she was gone. Silence fell over the cave. Daniel groaned, pushing himself up. Did we do it?" Amelia stared at the pile of ash where the legend had once stood. "I think so." As they emerged from the cave, the first light of dawn painted the sky. The weight of centuries of fear and horror seemed to lift, if only slightly. The legend of Black Annis might endure in stories, but her reign of terror was over. Or so they hoped.